1 billion, 10 million, 1 billion and 1, 1 billion and 1,000, 1 billion and 1 million, 1 billion and 2 million, 1 billion 10 million, 1.1 billion, 1.2 billion, 1.3 billion, 1.4 billion, 1.5 billion, 1.6 billion, 1.7 billion, 1.8 billion, 1.9 billion, 2 billion, 2.1 billion, 2.2 billion, 2.5 billion, 3 billion, 3.6 billion, 4 billion, 4.5 billion, 4.9 billion, 5 billion, 5 billion 50,000, 5 billion 50 million, 5.5 billion, 6 billion, 6.4 billion, 7 billion, 8 billion, 8.1 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion, 10 billion and 1, 10 billion, 1,000, 10 billion, 1 million, 11 million, no, sorry, 10 billion, 10 billion, 1, 10 billion, 1,000, 10 billion, 1 million, 11 billion, 12 billion, 13 billion, 14 billion, 15 billion, 16 billion, 17 billion, 18 billion, 19 billion, 20 billion, 21 billion, 22 billion, 25 billion, 30 billion, 33 billion, 40 billion, 46 billion, 50 billion, 58 billion, 60 billion, 70 billion, 80 billion, 90 billion, 97 billion, 104,000, 100 billion, 100 billion and 1, 100 billion 1, 100 billion 1, 100 billion 1,000, 100 billion 1 million, 100 billion 10 million, 100 billion and 20 million, 100 billion 50 million, 100 billion 55 million, 100 billion 100 million, 100 billion and 100 million, 100 billion 500 million, 101 billion, 102 billion, 103 billion, 104 billion, 105 billion, 110 billion, 120 billion, 130 billion, 140 billion, 150 billion, 150 billion, 160 billion, 170 billion, 180 billion, 190 billion, 200 billion, 210 billion, 220 billion, 250 billion, 300 billion, 313 billion, 360 billion, 400 billion, 490 billion, 500 billion, 500 billion, 500,000, 500 billion, 500 million, 550 billion, 600 billion, 630 billion, 640 billion, 700 billion, 800 billion, 810 billion, 900 billion, 999 billion, 999 billion, 999 million, 999,999, 1 trillion, 100 billion, 1.1 trillion, 1.2 trillion, 1.3 trillion, 1.4 trillion, 1.5 trillion, 1.6 trillion, 1.7 trillion, 1.8 trillion, 1.9 trillion, 2 trillion, 2.1 trillion, 2.2 trillion, 2.5 trillion, 3 trillion, 3.6 trillion, 4 trillion, 4.5 trillion, 4.9 trillion, 5 trillion, 5 trillion, 5.5 trillion, 6 trillion, 6.4 trillion, 7 trillion, 8 trillion, 8.1 trillion, 9 trillion, 10 trillion, 11 trillion, 12 trillion, 13 trillion, 14 trillion, 15 trillion, 16 trillion, 17 trillion, 18 trillion, 19 trillion, 20 trillion, 25 trillion, 30 trillion, 40 trillion, 50 trillion, 50 trillion and 5 million, 60 trillion, 63 trillion, 70 trillion, 72 trillion, 80 trillion, 90 trillion, 97 trillion, 104 billion, 100 trillion, 110 trillion, 120 trillion, 130 trillion, 140 trillion, 150 trillion, 160 trillion, 170 trillion, 180 trillion, 190 trillion, 200 trillion, 250 trillion, 300 trillion, 313 trillion, 360 trillion, 400 trillion. Wow, that's so big for me. 490 trillion, 500 trillion, 500 trillion and 500 million, or 500 trillion 500 billion, 600 trillion, 630 trillion, 640 trillion, 700 trillion, 800 trillion, 810 trillion, 900 trillion, 1 quadrillion, 1,000 trillion, 1 quadrillion, 1.1 quadrillion. Oh, let me use this. 2 quadrillion, 3 quadrillion, 4 quadrillion, 5 quadrillion, 6 quadrillion, 7 quadrillion, 8 quadrillion, 9 quadrillion, 10 quadrillion, 11 quadrillion, 12 quadrillion. That's so big. Let's try more smaller. 13 quadrillion, 16 quadrillion, 20 quadrillion, 30 quadrillion, 40 quadrillion, 50 quadrillion, 60 quadrillion, 70 quadrillion, 80 quadrillion, 90 quadrillion. I think there is no 97 quadrillion, 104 trillion. There is no here. 100 quadrillion, 200 quadrillion, 300 quadrillion, 400 quadrillion, 500 quadrillion, 600 quadrillion, 700 quadrillion, 800 quadrillion, 900 quadrillion, 1 quintillion, 2 quintillion, 3 quintillion, 4 quintillion, 5 quintillion, 10 quintillion, 1 sextillion, 6 sextillion, 1 septillion, 7 septillion, 1 octillion, 8 octillion, 1 nonillion, 9 nonillion, 1 decillion, 10 decillion, 1 undecillion, 11 undecillion, 1 duodecillion, 12 duodecillion, quartodecillion, quindecillion, sextillion, vigintillion, Google, question mark, Googleplex, question mark, glitch, Googleplexion, glitch, 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 Googleplexion x 1 million, glitch, 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 Googleplexion x 1 billion, glitch, 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 oh here, oh god. Well, is that a Roblox game? Oh. Googleplexion x 1 trillion. 3 3 4 3 5 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3. Oh no, so long that I can't do that there. SSCG 3, SSCG 4, SSCG 5, SSCG, SSCG 3. This is so many. Rails number. Oblivion. Half infinity. Infinity. Infinity plus 0.5. Infinity plus 1. Infinity plus 1.5. Infinity plus 2. Infinity plus 2.5. Infinity plus 3. Infinity plus 4. Infinity plus 5. infinity plus 6, infinity plus 7, infinity plus 8, infinity plus 9, infinity plus 10, infinity plus 20, infinity plus 30, infinity plus 40, infinity plus 50, infinity plus 60, infinity plus 70, infinity plus 80, infinity plus 90, infinity plus 100, infinity plus 110, infinity plus 120, infinity plus 130, infinity plus 140, infinity plus 150, infinity plus 160, infinity plus 170, infinity plus 180, infinity plus 190, infinity plus 200, infinity plus 300, infinity plus 400, infinity plus 500, infinity plus 600, infinity plus 500, infinity plus 600, infinity plus 700, infinity plus 800, infinity plus 900, infinity plus 1000, infinity plus 10,000, infinity plus 100,000, infinity plus 1,000,000. What is that number? Oh, I'm stuck. 2 infinities, 2 infinities and 2 infinities. 2 and 2 infinities, 3 infinity, 4 infinity, 5 infinity, 6 infinity, 7 infinity, and absolute infinity. Goodbye, and I'm stuck.